But I am hopeful. I sent President Bush a long letter in which I outlined some of the experiences with the Permanent Fund in Alaska, some of the favorable attitude of those folk at the World Bank and at the U.S. big conference, Basic Income Guarantee Conference, that I attended last spring, and urged him to consider it as a centerpiece for a proposal post-war or post-war activities in Iraq. And unfortunately, I don't think I sent it through proper channels. And if it was treated as normally, probably some staff member looked at it, threw it in the round file, and that was the end of it. So I then wrote President Bush the Elder, and sent him a copy of this letter, and received a good response from him. And I knew President Bush himself quite well long before he became president, and they had put on a fundraiser for me, or they hadn't put on a fundraiser, but they put me up in their home in Houston here for 3 or 4 days some years ago when I was running for governor, and we became quite good friends. I'd float around Alaska with him, and he wrote me back an encouraging letter that he was sure that his son would be apprised of this concept, and I'm hopeful that something will emerge from it. I've also met again with Senator Murkowski and commended her for having introduced legislation, but she ought to be pushing it, making some more national noise about it, and urging the president to adopt it as a centerpiece of his campaign. So far, I haven't heard anything more about it, and there's where it sits. So if this does in any way stir the pot and get the thing boiling, it'll be well worth the effort. In closing, I'd like to thank you people for taking time to listen to a proposal that could have, I say, a very significant impact on post-war Iraq. As you know, there's been a charge that there's no plan for the peace in Iraq. The proposal that we have just outlined is one that seemingly the president endorses, Colin Powell, the Secretary of State, endorses, several Congress people, but there's been no action to my knowledge, save on the part of Senator Murkowski, who has introduced legislation in Congress to promote such a proposal. But I think if it were to be adopted, it's one means by which we might create a counter to the terrorism we now seeing prevalent in that country, an offset that might incline the major people of Iraq, the majority, to say that those people that in performing those terrorist acts are hitting me in the pocketbook where it really hurts. If we had something of that nature in place, I think we might find the majority of people in Iraq doing their best to suppress that sort of activity because it's in their best long-term self-interest. Thank you.